Fear Not, Episode 157. Hi, I'm Billy Atwell, and I believe that consistently facing your fears is the only way to realize your truest self and to make those confident choices that will help you to obtain your deepest held hopes and dreams. I have faith that this podcast series will show you that you are not alone, that it will strengthen you and give you courage to face your fears, and that it will help you to permanently cross over into a life of living beyond your fears. Join me on this journey as we listen and learn from others as they share their experiences in facing and overcoming their own fears. Hello, everybody. Today you and I are going to be joined by mseely. Welcome, Michael. How are you today?
Thanks a lot, Billy. I'm pretty well.
Are you ready to fear not today?
Indeed, I am ready to fear not.
Michael is a husband and dad on a new and exciting journey in life to inspire, impact, and uplift people to pursue happiness and increase their productivity and creativity. He's also the author of the 3 R's. Shift your workplace frustration to joy by reframing, rewriting, and reflecting your mindset. Michael, would you take a few moments to fill in those gaps and maybe also give us a brief glimpse of your personal life?
Sure. Thanks a lot, Billy. The question you asked, tell me a little about yourself. That's a question we all get in any type of greeting. And I believe that it really points to a much deeper, more fundamental and meditative question, and that is, who am I? And it's such a really profound and interesting question because the obvious thing is to start looking at your accomplishments and basically, okay, in my case, Michael is a software developer, he's a husband, he's a dad. And from the outside, you will believe from all points that, he has lived a very accomplished life. But that really leads to the frustration that my book, The 3 R's, speaks on. This idea that accomplishing your goals brings the fallacy of the ultimate joy, the freedom, and just this fulfillment that you believe is at the end of that journey. But life isn't like that at all. And it took me 40 plus years to find and to learn the hard way that it just doesn't work the way that we have been sold. We've been sold this vision of life that it's a journey in which this grand thing is coming. At the end of all of your accomplishments, you're going to have that success, the joy, the curiosity that you seek. And it just doesn't work like that. That type of life can force you to be constantly either living in the future or living in the past and totally absent from the present.
Michael, would you also share with us today one of the biggest fears that you've had to face?
Sure. Once again, as I go into that question as to who am I, which is really the central theme, the more that I looked at that question and spent time going inside, the more I started to get that feeling of, okay, so all of this frustration that I'm currently feeling at this stage in life really didn't start today. This started from way back. And the more that I looked at it, the more that I see it really came from a sense of feeling disconnected, feeling that it's all on me to achieve something in life and life itself. So my biggest fear is the fear of death. The more that I looked at all of the other fears that we suffer on a daily basis from, I really believe that they all sit on one primal fear, and that is the fear of one's demise. Les Brown said it perfectly. He said that in life, he believes that people come into the world with 2 fears, the fear of loud noises and the fear of falling. But I really believe that that's not the case. I really believe that all of our fears are really pegged to that one, and that is our ultimate demise, or what we believe lies behind our demise.
Is that something that you've overcome?
Yes, and it's something that it's a daily process. It's something that I will be overcoming for the rest of my life because part of dealing with death and really going into that process was something that was terrifying to me even, for my whole life, from the time that I was a kid. Neil Donald Walsh, he has his famous book, Conversations with God. Well, Billy, I believe that I had a conversation with death around the time I was a kid, around 12 or 13. I was looking into the mirror and just this moment of introspection where it was like death was talking to me and it was letting me know that my time was coming. And for a young kid that just wanted to do nothing but just run around and enjoy life, it really hit me hard. But the moment was worse than that because the first person I saw after that moment was my mom. And then the grandeur of the moment really settled in, where I realized it was not just my death, it was not just me, but everyone that I love and everyone that loved me will one day no longer be here. So once you start looking at your accomplishments in life and your goals, and you realize that nothing is forever, the law of impermanence of all things tells us that all forms, including our form, the shape that we hold on to and believe that we must do everything to maintain, it all goes. And by going into that process of looking at your death, it's really a process of dying before you die. You get so liberated, and it's something that happened by accident. I was not planning. I mean, for 40 years, I pretty much ran from the thought. And once I started to go deep into that process and realized that this infinite blackness of nothingness that everyone holds on to with such fear that you're going to go into, when you go through the process of dying before you die, you realize that that nothingness, that void, is the same very one from which you emerge. So, as Alan Watts would say, nothingness is our ultimate reality and it's pure. And once you're able to get to that realization, you realize that you can let go. You can let go of this feeling that you have to conform. Everything has to conform to you. You have to wrestle life down and just, take ownership over it. And that's not the case at all. Life is meant to be played, and it's not meant to just muscle your way through.
How did you come to that realization?
Well, it was accidental, like every great discovery or rediscovery is, because I believe that in your audience and all around today, there are many people walking around like I was for the longest time with just a lot of unconscious fear. And, I'm a Toastmaster member, so, we have the fear of public speaking, and someone might have a fear of heights, et cetera, et cetera. All of those fears, when you look at it, really comes down to the ego and the ego feeling that it must persist. And the big breakthrough for me came from the teachings of Alan Watts and Eckhart Tolle in The Power of Now. Alan Watts, he's no longer here, but it feels like his message was written for this time. It feels like he speaks to me personally when I'm listening to his videos and his sermons on YouTube. So his recasting of what this whole death problem is, that really just helped me to be liberated from the fear. And it's not where, okay, well, I'm going to die one day, so you know what? I don't have to worry about anyone. I can take advantage of anyone and everything because I'm going to be gone. No, that's not what liberation is about. Liberation comes in the form when you can see that there's nothing to hold on to, right? You can let go of it all and just be in alignment with the universe. Jim Carrey said it best in that there is nothing that you can do in your life that will add to you, and there is nothing that you can do that will take away from you because you're already complete. And once that we can realize that we are complete, and there is nothing like your next goal, your next project that's going to make you any better, I can't tell you how liberating that is and just how freeing it is to be able to then go and co-create with the universe.
You clearly have experienced a lot, and you must have come across some really great material. And I know that you mentioned stuff like you were inspired by Eckhart Tolle and stuff,
Sure.
but is there other material, resources, books perhaps that you could recommend that would be beneficial for us?
Sure. So on the non-fictional side, I mentioned already Eckhart Tolle and the Power of Now. It is a fantastic book. Actually, I listen to the audio version in my car every day, and presence is the key in life. And once you start looking at fear and why most folks either are living with past regrets, as I were, and future concerns or anxiety, as I also was, you come to the realization that the ego only has a sense of form, a sense of identity in those two states, not the present. So this guy that's in or girl that's inside of your head that's always talking to you really isn't designed to keep you firm in the present moment. And the past is the past, the future hasn't happened. So the only moment that exists ever is now. Just as we are having this moment here with you, your audience, and everyone else, now that's the only time. And any change that any of us wants in life, it can only start from now. It can only start from here. So getting grounded in being present is probably one of the more fundamental lessons that I've learned that has helped me to really make this transformation. And also becoming more spiritual and realizing that there's a huge gap between spirituality and religion. I've have nothing against religion. I've been to church and I've done the typical stuff, but that just added to my fear and it never helped me to alleviate that fear. But once I started to really absorb the teachings of Alan Watts and other spiritual leaders like that, it just totally resets your mindset and just truly liberates the soul. That's the best way that I can put it. And lastly, for nonfiction, for fiction, the book that I can recommend the most is The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And once again, it's this whole idea of these two forces, a journey and fear. That fear that's stopping you from taking that next step, that next step. And the whole idea is that the universe already knows what you can, basically knows what you are. And it whispers that to your heart. But the problem is we allow fear in all of the forms. We allow fear to stop us from going forward and claiming what the universe has given to and through us. And the message that I am sharing with everyone, and everyone has a message. And the thing about a message is that the message is not ours. It's just something that has been passed to us. We are the vessel, and it's our job to share that message out with other people that are in need, that are hurting, and that can be inspired and impacted by your message.
Are you ready for the speed run?
Yes, I am.
What individual, whether they're fiction or real, has made the most impact on your life?
Well, that clearly will have to be my parents. I know a lot of people, every time the lotto is really huge, will play and dream of being a millionaire and a lotto winner. I've always thought that I won the lotto. I won the lotto in life even before I had a chance to play. And that is with the parents that God, the universe blessed me with. I My mom was the greatest person I ever met, and my dad is someone who believed that it's on everyone to find their path. He will support you 2,000,000%, but you're the one that have to find that path. So my parents, hands down, easily.
If you could instantly change one thing in the world, what would that change be?
Well, it's something that I felt myself and I feel a lot more these days, and that is to be at ease, to be totally engaged in the now. And if that is something that if everyone could really feel, I think that the world would be a much better place because there's a lot of stuff that we do and we do it at an unconscious level. And once again, a lot of that comes, out of this fear that, at any moment you can just vanish and disappear into this void. And if that's the case, then life really becomes cheapened. But when you realize that the original question, who am I? When you realize that, we are all connected. There's a quote, a wave is not in the ocean, a wave is the ocean. And the whole idea of that is that everyone out there in this particular form that you identify as yourself, that's just temporal. There's something much more deeper to you, and we are all that one connected energy. So, in sense, you know, all eyes are everyone. We're the sum of all eyes, pretty much, is what I was saying. And you start to see that you just don't vanish. You don't go anywhere. And with that, you get a whole new perspective on life. So being at ease is something that I believe a lot of people could benefit from.
What's your biggest weakness?
My biggest weakness is, well, it's the ego again, and that's true, but it's looking to measure impact. Whenever I and this has been the case from school all the way through. It's in school, it's really easy to measure your impact, right? It's designed where you get a test. But life isn't that way, right? You get a test in school, then, well, you practice, you get the test, and then you go forward. Well, life doesn't work like that. So, how does one measure impact, and how do you make sure that you do not allow that to stop you from taking your message forward? That's something that I struggle with, but it's a lot easier these days because I can see the change that all of this stuff that I'm speaking on is making in my life itself and the life of my wife and others around me. So, but still, every time I have to come back to earth and deal with the ego side. And so that would be probably still the biggest weakness that I'm struggling with.
What's your biggest strength?
Focus. Like a dog on a bone. If I have an idea, I will go and I will go all out and I will work when no one is watching. I will work when the lights are off. If it's something that I desire and something that really speaks to my heart. And that's a quality that I've had since a youngster. And it's probably one of my best qualities, just the ability to focus on the task and see it through to completion.
If you could only have one book to read, what's that book going to be?
Well, I mentioned The Alchemist already by Paulo Coelho, and probably the other one would be The Success Principles. So it's a toss up between those two because The Success Principles by Jack Canfield started my journey on personal development many, many, many years ago. And it's like a Bible to me. And I believe it's a really great resource for anyone that's looking to make a transition in life and go after that thing that's on their heart because we all have that whisper. And as it states in The Alchemist, that whisper dies over time because the heart knows the pain of a goal that is not carried through to completion. So it knows the pain and it tries not to feel it as well. So those two books probably would be the ones I would recommend.
Do you have a favorite sound?
It's funny, I was never one for music of any type. As far as studying, I usually like to study quietly, but lately I am totally engrossed with instrumental music. It is something that I can put on and really get into a flow state. And some of the music that you hear, like on any type of typical movie, some of those soundtracks, like Time from Inception, the movie, I can really get a nice vibe off of those. So instrumental music these days is really speaking to my soul.
And Michael, if someone would like to connect with you, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Sure, Billy. Folks can find me on my blog, michaelseelyignites.com, and feel free to engage. I am open to speaking and to helping anyone because this everything that's personal, everything that we believe is most personal is most universal, meaning that what I struggle with for the last 30 plus years of my life, I know that there are many people out there who are struggling with the same fear. And the problem with that is it's a lot of it is unconscious. So you just react rather than being able to step back and see what it is all about. So anyone that I can help basically to get that awareness, because after that you're on your own really, because you're already complete. I can't stress that enough. So the most that anyone can do for us in life is just to help us see that fact. And then after that, it's time to play the game of life with the universe.
And do you have any parting advice for us today?
Two things. First would be a Les Brown quote, and this one just governs fear in general. You can have fear, or fear can have you. And it's a real big distinction because a lot of us allow fear to force us to play a small game in life. And the other one is mine, and that is you can either live with the fear of death or the death of fear. And like everything with free will, it's a choice.
That's really excellent advice, and thank you so much for that. And Michael, I want to thank you too for coming on the show today. You've been so amazing. I wasn't expecting this today. You've given so much, and just it's been captivating. And like you were saying before, your vibe is just so amazing and generous. So thank you so much for coming on and sharing with us today.
Well, thank you, Billy, for allowing me to be a guest with your audience today. Thanks.
Thank you for joining me today. And remember, you cannot achieve everything, but you do have the God-given ability to achieve anything. So stay focused, out of fear, and keep on keeping on. Until next time, be well and peaceful. For more information on today's episode and guest, or for resources that will assist you in overcoming your fears, visit livingbeyondyourfears.com. And don't forget to subscribe to this podcast, where 3 times a week we move to a life beyond our fears.